my wife and I, as we talk about it now today, there were things that happened that I don't even remember.
Right.
Things that I was struggling with, outbursts of anger,
Yeah.
just being just so tied up inside and angry and not knowing how to let that out. She tells me about all this stuff that she, I mean, essentially survived through just by loving me.
Yeah.
And reminded me of all these things, and I had no real recollection of it. I mean, I'm like, what?
Yeah.
I did what?
Right.
You know, and she's like, yeah, remember, like, that year was so hard for us. And I'm
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
oh,
Yeah.
it was? Like, but I was blind to it.
Right.
Um,
Right.
So,
Yeah. And then transitioned into police work and.
yeah, and so I was struggling with all these things, and I didn't deal with them. And then I go into law enforcement, and it's different being in law enforcement than it is in the military. When you go to combat, you deploy and then you come back, and that's it. You go to work every day. You know, you go.
Yeah.
You know, I was a radio guy, so I would, you know, taking care of radios and doing stuff. There was no violence. There was no
Right.
threat. There was no harm. I
Right.
didn't see horrible things. There was, you come in, you know, you PT in the morning, do your thing, go home.
Yeah.
So when I transitioned into law enforcement, it was a rude awakening because it was every day. You know, you go there and you're saturated in this environment where you see, like, that nasty 1% of the population, the people that want to hurt other people, or
Right.
you know, the people that are out to commit crimes, and you got to catch them. And then there's that element, and then there's the element of, you know, now you're a first responder. When someone calls and says, my 12-year-old just killed himself and he's hanging in the closet, you're the first one there.
Yeah.
And you got to triage the situation. And, you know, is it safe for medical to come in? Yeah, it's safe. And we bottle all these things up, you know, just like in Mighty Oaks when they talk about your rucksack. You know, you just pile it on them, and you never deal with these things.
Yeah.
And it just comes to a point where you do one of two things. Either you check out completely, or you turn into that monster and you end up tearing your own life apart.
Yeah. When you transitioned from one police department down here, was part of that for you getting away or a fresh start, or?
So the community that we lived in up in Northern California, when I would go to like Walmart and go shopping,
Yeah.
I'd see the same people.
Sure, yeah.
And no one really liked law enforcement up there, just in the city that I was in, just because it was saturated with crime. You know, I mean, just the homelessness, all of that
Right.
just was
Right.
getting out of control.
Right.
And then coming here, it was, I mean, I'm like, I remember my first day with my FTO, field training officer down here. I was going down the road, and this giant biker guy pulls up next to us. And he's like, hey, I need to talk to you. And I'm like, I look over at my FTO, I'm like, here we go. It's about to go down.
Here we go.
It's about to go down. So I get out, and I'm like, hey, what's going on, man? And he's like, hey, you know, we know you guys work hard around here. And I'm like, is this like some sort of,
setting me up
is he
for
tricking
something?
me? And he reaches in his cut, and he pulls out a gift card.
No
and
way.
it's Chick-fil-A gift card. And he's like, hey, you know, we want to support you guys, want to give it to you.
Yeah.
I look at my FTO, and I'm like, I know I'm not supposed to take gratuities. And he's like, I don't think you want to upset
Yeah, I think I take that
that
one.
large man. I was like, oh, thank you, sir. And then I go to Chick-fil-A, and I realize that they give a law enforcement uniform 50% off.
Yeah.
So my mind's blown.
Yeah.
And so the transition was great.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll never leave this place. I bleed this place.
Right.
I love it.
Right.
But with all that stuff comes the daily things that we see. And for me, when I was going through all this stuff initially, I wasn't really, you know, the explosive, you know, taking on my family, everyone's living in fear. I would internalize it,
Yeah.
and it would come out in other ways, sometimes with anger, but I just wasn't dealing with that process.
Right. Right.
So then I found out about Mighty Oaks. I knew about it because a couple people in our department already went.
Yeah.
Chief is a huge supporter of
Yeah.
it. And a friend of mine that I was working with was going through some struggles. And another officer that already went was in adult booking with us. We were processing a prisoner. And he was telling my partner, hey, you ever thought about Mighty Oaks? I'm like, oh, yeah, dude, you should
Yeah,
go.
yeah.
And he's like, I don't know. And me being so filled with pride and being blind, I didn't realize what I was struggling with. And I tell him, dude, I'll go with you. Like, I'll support
you.
I'll support
I'll
you.
be there for you.
You're
I don't need
struggling,
it,
yeah.
but you need it.
You need it, and I want to go. I
Right.
want to be a part of that.
Yeah.
You know. So on the way, so we sign up. on the way to the ranch, there's 2 main highways to get there essentially. And I knew that, it said it in the email, but my Google app kept telling me to like take these roads,
Right.
like these ones
Right.
that didn't it wasn't following the directions. So I started going down these roads and I realized that they turn into dirt roads and there's like big scary trees, and I had to it was like 2 o'clock in the morning because I had to work. So I'm like, dude, I'm never gonna find this place going this way. So I turn around and I go back to the highway, and again Google will try to send me down another road. And I realize that it's filled with potholes and it's dirty and it's scary and it won't get me to where I need to go.
Right.
That happens about 3 or 4 times. The last time I get to the highway and I just sit there and it just hits me like right in the face that was my life.
Wow.
I was living my life going down the wrong roads, not sticking to the plan, not going on the right road. And I just sat there in my truck and I cried, man. Like I realized that just what I was doing. And going through that at Mighty Oaks was something that has changed my life and my family's life forever. I remember it was Wednesday. We started Monday. Wednesday, we're in class, and it just hits me again. More stuff. I text my wife, and I say, I don't know what happened. I don't know when. I don't know how. But somewhere along the road, I lost myself.
Wow.
And she texts back that she was crying. And I realized that however much I was trying to hide, however much I was trying to keep inside, I wasn't hiding it from her. Like, my family could see it. They saw.
You thought you were holding it right here. No one knows what I'm going through.
Yeah, I thought I was acting. I thought, and I realized that I was asleep in the passenger seat of my own life. And that with all the struggles, all the things I was going through, all the things that I've seen, and the things that were hurting me inside, I realized Satan put me to sleep in a lullaby.
Yeah.
And I woke up and he's driving and I'm like, what is going on? And people like this man helped me to uncover the damage that was going on, helped me to strip my pride away.
Yeah.
In law enforcement, it's like you're just filled with, I don't want to say you're not filled with pride, but what we do, you have to be bulletproof. They teach you to be bulletproof, not just in what you do, but inside, because you want to compartmentalize.
Right.
They don't want an officer going up and, crying as he's giving CPR to somebody, or crying with a lady who just, got a black eye from her husband. They need you to be stoic and the recorder of facts, and you need to be able to relay that and remember it and testify in court. So much so that we pull our true selves away and we don't deal with these things.
Yeah.